الرئيسين قدموا للمرحلة جهودي ما عاقهم على المسير من الظما جهودي مات الكرم بعدهم.
So we are here with Rabih Mroue, born in Beirut, 67. That's a very interesting year to be born. Fact on you, but artist, editor, director, a lot of hats that you are wearing. But let me talk to you about your play, The Missing Employee. It's interesting, as an Egyptian raised in the 60s, Lebanon for us was the place where the missing Egyptian will be. In a sense, it was always the person who could not make it in Egypt culturally or educationally or emotionally or whatever, and has no place to go. Lebanon was the savior. You go there and solve all your problem. But you are missing from Egypt, but you found yourself in Lebanon. That's how I was looking at your play, and I said, my goodness, this is where all the missing people are. But how did the idea come to you? This is a very different way of turning a very mundane ads and very boring clips to a very wonderful story and storytelling.
Actually, it's by coincidence that I put my hand on this case, and I followed it without knowing why. I was collecting all this information from the newspapers and glued them in this way in notebooks. And I had these notebooks for almost 6 years, and I didn't know how to deal with them. And every time, like, I look at them and say, maybe I have to do a novel or a film, or maybe forget them. And actually, each time some of my friends visits me, I show them, I show my notebooks, and I say, look at this. And then they all like say, wow, what is this? It's a good story. And like, and then I decided, actually, maybe it's the best way to do a story out of this archive or notebooks is to do the same. It's just to show my notebooks to the audience. So this is how the idea came, that I just, what I need is just to show my notebooks to the audience and read the newspapers. And I started from this very simple frame, and I developed it till I got this this performance.
Since when the missing employee, at the end of the day, at the end of the play, who is that person? Was it Lebanon? Was it the identity? Whom you really were looking for? Were you, as you were looking for this employee?
I think your question is should be kept without answering it. I think we should leave it open, like everyone should read it in the way that he or she wished to, because it's a metaphorical answer should be who is missed. But what interests me in this actually to maybe to find out how newspapers deal with such cases, to see the mechanism of the newspapers, how they deal with these subjects, like, and I feel that it's like chatting, like if you say something in a chat, nobody take it seriously, and the newspapers is the same, like they can change their news in the second day, in the following day, without any embarrassment, without any clarifications, without anything, like as if they like were doing it just to chat with us. And at the same time, it's not an accusation to the media, of course, like for the mislead of information, not at all. It's just like to examine this, because for me, it's when a story or a case belongs to the newspapers, it's still not. It's still subject to disappear, to be missed. It's not still in a book or in a history.
I see.
Huh?
Just news.
Yes, it's just news. It's like chatting. Like it will tomorrow we will forget about it. So it's like okay, it's not like a history book or any book. Or when you put it in a book, then you should be responsible of what you put in this book, whatever it is. So, and then someone would come and tell you, but you wrote this, and he can quote you. With newspapers, of course, this could be like to quote you from newspapers, but it belongs to this world where that you can tell whatever you want, and it's as if like you come and you tell me like, but yesterday you told me that you are going to swim, and maybe I said yes, I told you this, but I changed my mind. I decided to go to ski. Because in Lebanon,
what's your problem?
You know, we can do swim and ski in the same day.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you can always say. I mean, are you talking about having a print medium in an oral culture, where people usually chatter in oral culture, as you always hold the person that has like a respected role in the society, like your elder or your dad or your teacher.
Yeah.
But people can talk, if they're not that important, they can, so oral culture has its own dynamic and verification.
Exactly. It's oral like that, like it's not, it's still not really fixed, not there, not recorded in the meaning of, like one can come back to it and say, so this is what I mean, like with this. And of course, like in looking for a missing employee in this performance, also like I put some questions on the medium itself, on theater. Like what was interesting me is like, is it only my image, but also it's theater. It's going here and now. So this is one of my questions, and how we represent a story, how we do theater today. So I was trying to put these questions without answers. Like I also kept the answers open.
Is this the role of the artist? You just come in with the answer, changing reality, or you just raising questions?
It's raising questions, in my opinion. It's not to give answers, because if you give answers, then you are certain and you are sure of certain things, and then you become like a politician. Like you have a message to tell. You are sure of this message, and you have to transmit this message to the audience. So I think this is a very bad role to the artist. I think artists should share with the audience ideas and questions and doubts.
In your missing employee, and you touch like a cross section throughout the Lebanese society. From family, law, politics, economy, and all that. It is very hard to tell that kind of cross-sectional stories. I mean, it's in how you bring them all together in just that particular story. So when you reconstruct that story, were you intentionally trying to? What was the chronicle, random chronicle, and let the story tell itself, or what you trying to have a narrative of some sort?
No, it was not a random narrative. It was, I think it was a very classical narrative story with a linear, and with a plot, with the climax and an ending. It's a very, very classical way of telling a story. And during this plot, there's a lot of branches, into brackets, and that that I go and come back to the main line. And by doing so, yes, I raise and I go to other layers, and for me, actually, it was from the beginning. What was interesting in this story is that it became really a case that everybody was engaged in a way and another in this story. So of course I did not tell the whole story now. I tell like part of it in this performance. But when I read the whole news cuts that I have, like there were like all kind of inhabitants, like politicians, artists, religious, all were engaged in this case, and everyone in a way and another was giving an opinion or writing or being in. So this is why I wanted to put this story in stage and show it.
It's interesting. You've taken one person, one story, but everybody has a different version of it,
Of course.
and there's none of them were ever coordinating. It's like it's totally different story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you navigate yourself between? Everybody has the full story, but not really full.
Yeah.
And you talked about that. What is the full story? What's not story? And
Yeah, this is actually one of the main questions that I put in this performance, like what is truth, what is untruth? And for me, it's not an important question. What is truth, what is untruth? I'm not looking for the truth in this case. I'm not trying to reveal what really happened. It's just like the fascination of this story and all its complications. What interests me, and for me, it's always pretentious that one can say that I'm neutral. I'm not taking a position. It's like to say that I'm like taking a neutral position, not taking any side with anyone. But this is not true, actually, and this is what I try like to give hints in this performance, that in a way I'm trying just I pretend that I'm going just to read these cuts without any interfere, but in fact I'm manipulating all this material. I'm choosing what to read, what not to read. I'm skipping some articles. I'm highlighting some phrases, and I'm playing with my voice with such event or story or case, and then
highlighting
yes.
event.
So in a way, I'm taking a position, and this is what I meant with like when you write a history, it's never, or a documentary, it's never neutral. It's always like taking a position, if you want or not. Yeah.
But do you think your take on that story, when you know, has it always been the same, or it changes every evening, every time you tell it, or based on the audience, how you tell it in Lebanon is different how you tell it here?
Yes. Of course, like it depends on the audience. They influence or affect the way I'm telling the story. But I can say that there is like at least 90% that is always the same, and there is like 10% depends on the audience, and also depends on me.
I mean, sitting in the front of a camera and telling a story, that you have to create almost everything yourself. I mean, as a performance. And so what's your background? Tell us a little bit about, so we can get to the feeling.
I studied theater, actually, in the Lebanese university, And when I finished, I started doing my own productions. But at the same time, I got a job in a TV channel in Beirut, local one. And I've been working there I worked there for almost 15 years in a TV channel, like with the editing room, with the cameras, with tapes. So at some point in my career in theater, I decided that I should put my new experience in my theater work. So I start to use the material that I use in the TV in theater. So it came from really a daily experience. And at some point also I started to question my career, why I'm doing theater, how we should do theater, what is representation. And this actually allowed me to open more into other disciplines like videos, visual arts, architects. So I started also to meet and to try to collaborate with other artists from different disciplines. And I for example, with the missing employee, it was the first time that I work, not the first time actually, the second time I work with a graphic designer for the scenography, for the set design. And yeah, and it was really interesting because they don't have the cliche of the theater. So they are coming from another field, which is the graphic design field, and they put like ideas that you don't expect. And this was really very rich, very good experience.
You know, I mean, in a live performance, you are there on the stage, eye contact, the audience, and all that.
Right.
That was missing in your. The audience only has to deal with your image.
Right.
Is it the same when you are there and you have this person come, get the dynamic from the audience? How do you get the energy from the audience when they're only seeing your images?
I don't know, but this is
It's happening.
It's happening, but what I did in the introduction, that I was hinting about this relation by telling them that, okay, I will now speak in English, although my English is not that good. But if I speak in English, then we can skip the subtitles, and
Yeah.
and then this will allow me to look into your eyes, and you look into my eyes, and then I look to the lens, And of course, when I look to the lens directly, my image appears as if I'm looking to them, audience, and with eye contact. But actually, the eye contact is impossible between me and the audience because we are sitting in the same seats, facing the stage. So this was the hint that in order that my image and the audience has an eye contact, then they should look to my image, and I have to look to the lens directly. So through the whole performance, I'm always talking with the lens. I'm not talking to the audience, or I'm talking to the audience through the lens, but I'm not seeing the audience. I'm not able to see them. I can feel them around me. And I think this is the same case for them. They are looking to my image, and they can feel my presence next to them. But at some point, I decided that I should break this relation by this trick, that I switched from a live transmission into a recorded one, and I disappeared at the end of the performance.
I was staring at you for 5 minutes, but you were gone.
Yes. So I did this trick in order to put this this doubt also on this relation, that also this relation could be also manipulated.
So you are a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you are looking at the play or making the play from an audience perspective because you're sitting with them, and it's
Yes.
a very different relationship.
Yeah, it's a very different relationship. Actually, it was not easy decision to take when I got this idea, and I was a bit hesitating. Could be possible to do it, and it's just like me talking for like, and it was the first version. It was like 2 hours and a half.
Whoa.
2 hours 20 minutes.
You are in Minnesota, and I just can't leave it without mentioning someone. You know, I don't know if you heard of Lake Wabagan. This is the Garrison Keillor, is just like the Ayatollah of our radio production, and he's been doing this show for 40 years.
Okay.
And he has a segment about private eye. With this private eye, is just almost reminding me of you when you are doing this private detective work.
Okay.
And that private eye is very thoughtful, very down to earth, and he's always looking for very mundane cases that has been neglected by the establishment.
Okay.
But he goes about it by very humane way, not just legal and crimes and all that.
Okay.
And he's been doing this for 40 years, and he tells it in radios.
Okay.
And he tells it almost the same way you do. And it's just it's a private eye. Here is a guy. So what kind of detective work have you done in that play, in that case?
It's actually very like, for me it's like I agree with you that I play the role of a detective, but I'm a detective in a virtual territory, which is I'm looking for something which exists only on papers. So I have papers, which is cuts from newspapers, and I try to make this puzzle to detect what was there. And of course there are no corpses, there is no blood, there is nothing. It's exactly as someone go to the internet and try to detect, to play also the role of a detective there. Mm-hmm. At the end of this detective work, what comes out is not who's guilty and who's innocent. Mm-hmm. It's not this. It's something else. It's that you bring up with ideas or with questions. This what is body by doing so. No, I'm not interested in this. It's not my job to accuse anybody. Whom I am to accuse anybody.
So everybody's guilty or everybody's innocent?
Nobody's guilty. Nobody's innocent. It's like it's the world, and if there is anybody innocent or anybody's guilty, it's not my job to point a finger and to say that this is the guilty and this is the innocent. For me, I'm not innocent. I'm also guilty.
I have to prepare for the show, but I don't want to leave this without talking about the Arab Spring and what's going on there. And I know you've done something about the Syrians and how the role of images, if I get correct, especially iPhone and all that, in an Arab Spring, specifically in Syria. Could you address this a little bit?
Yeah, it's actually it's a work that I started long time. It's research actually that I started long time on the image, on the use of the image, especially in images that I found in public sphere, like street posters, video testimonies of suicide bombers, videos also in that you found. So this work also continues this research on images, because I found that there is something very interesting in the videos that the Syrian protesters are producing in order to tell us what is happening in their revolution or in their country. No other source to get information from there except the official media, the official state, like it's the regime itself, and the journalist who belongs to any side, to any association, are not allowed to get in. So they created their own source, that they started to use the mobile phone to record what's happening and upload them to the web. Then we get the information from the web.
What about the image? It seems for me the images are more oppressive and undemocratic than words, because you cannot argue with images. Just if you see somebody is killed or blood, this is. But your word, you can. Is that your take on images? So it's so.
It's very interesting how you put the question or how you talk about the image, because if you it seems that images like has a big power. And they are like deal like as heavy and unquestionable, like this is a fact because this is an image. And for me, like what I try to do actually to construct the images, especially these images that became iconical, like icons and and taboos, that you can't talk about this image because, let's say, this is the image of the martyr, or this is the image of the revolution, or the image of yes. So for me, no, I take these images, these specific images, in order to deconstruct them and to desacralize them, and then giving back them. Deconstructed, giving back them to the authorities that they are producing these images, and then we bring them back to this human state, not having this powerful emphasis on us.
Really, I would like to appreciate you coming here. I think it's a great treat for us. So you coming all the way from Lebanon here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and enjoy your evening tonight. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
من عيسين قدموا للمرحلة جودي ما عاقهم على المسير من الظما جودي مات الكرم بعدهم والعز والجود يا عيوني من عيسين قدموا للمرحلة جودي ما عاقهم على المسير من الظما جودي مات الكرم بعدهم والعز والجود عقبا على مين تذكر يا الطارش ومريابة عقبا على مين تذكر يا الطارش ومر واشرب التعب قديم جاسات حنظل ومر راهن وأواه ما أصعب فراق ومر جودي عليهم عيوني بالبكاء جودي 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 عقب على مين تذكر يا الطارش ومر واشرب التعب قديم جاسات حنظل ومر راهن وأواه ما أصعب نواهم ومر جودي عليهم عيوني بالبكاء جودي 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 يا رجب الحمرا قناطير طير سلم على أحباب قلبي قناطي قناطي قناطير يا ويلي يا رجب الحمرا قناطير طير سلم على أحباب قلبي قناطي قناطي قناطير يا ويلي المجروح ومجري قناطي يا ويلي المجروح والميت سواه يا ويلي يابا 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 تزود